Smash Ultimate's Classic Mode is probably the best that we've ever gotten. Rather than the random character fights we've had in previous games or playing Monopoly for 20 minutes, we've got modes crafted for each and every character in some way or another. But with over 80 characters, not everything is going to be perfect. Now that I've covered nearly all of the Classic Mode routes and their origins, I think I can definitively say that there are some Classic Modes that really miss the mark. Sometimes it's just a single fight, but sometimes the entire route itself is just a total swing and a miss. So today, with the power of modding, we're going to be fixing all of the weird or stupid decisions in Classic Mode, starting with everyone's least favorite appendages. By the way, please subscribe. Master and Crazy Hand are staples in Smash Classic Modes, but with so many cool themed routes, it's a shame that all of these characters end on hand fights, while only these few characters have unique fights. Like, why the hell don't King Dedede and Meta Knight fight Marks, a boss from their literal series? It just seems so simple. So today we are going to fix stuff like that. But first I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Raid Shadow Legends. Explore millions of champion combinations and master countless tactics as you take on dungeon runs, campaign battles, and PvP matches in one of the hottest mobile games. One thing I love about the game is how beginner-friendly it is. It may seem intimidating at the beginning, but rest assured that they are going to show you the ropes. The game also has some crazy raid bosses like Thorn Davil. This dude was born just a regular guy, but one day decided he was better than the gods, which kinda sucks for him because he got tricked by the actual creator of the world and is now trapped in the Force Keep forever. What an L. Fortunately, it's pretty straightforward on how to defeat him. You draw strength based on how much defense he has, so right away you want champions with defense reduction, and you want champions who clear debuffs on you since he'll try to lower your damage output as well. This month, Raid has a ton of summer events and activities lined up for the game. Special fusion events to get a brand new legendary champion, tournaments against other players, and 5 brand new champions just to name a few. There are some giant updates also coming really soon, so now is the perfect time to get started. And if you want that little extra head start, hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen, and new players will receive the Epic Hero Chinoru, 200,000 silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard to summon another new champion the moment you start playing. Just hit the link and start playing Raid today. Cloud's boss fight has him end on Master and Crazy Hand, and since he was added in the base roster, that makes sense. But for our update, we're of course going to give him a fight against Sephiroth. It just works so well. He's the ultimate enemy of Final Fantasy VII, so I would be crazy to not make him the final boss of his classic route now that Sephiroth is actually in the game. Another character whose boss fight seemed very underwhelming to me was Shulk. The whole classic mode has him take on characters that represent his different Monado arts, but then his boss fight's just a lame hand fight. I mean, the dude literally fights giant mechanical monsters for his entire game. Why wouldn't they make Gallium his boss fight? Being part machine, it just makes a ton of sense for him to stand in as a reference to the Mechon. Outside of fights against actual bosses, I've loved the unique ends to classic mode routes that some characters have. Like, Terry's is genius with him fighting all of the fighting game characters in a King of Fighters style match. My only issue is that the team consisted of 2 Street Fighter reps and then Terry himself representing Fatal Fury. But now that Kazuya is in Smash, let's toss Ken out of that team and have Kazuya take his place. That way, all 3 characters are representatives from different fighting games, and it really feels like a Terry way to end the fight. The final boss fight that I fixed is Ike's. Now this had less to do with the fact that Ike originally fights the hands, and more to do with wanting to come up with more creative fights. So I threw a giant me in place of the hands and turned this into a boss fight against the Black Knight, which feels very, very appropriate, especially considering that is literally the theme for Ike's entire route. In my opinion, Miis are really underutilized in classic mode. They mostly just fit generic themes rather than being the stand-ins for actual characters. So this fight pits Ike against the Black Knight just like in his games. But those were just the boss fights. I've always thought that some of the characters have pretty weak routes overall, and so I wanted to overhaul some of the entire classic modes. So first, I wanted to do a more unique take on Mario's route. Being the mascot of Nintendo, it does make sense for him to fight other Nintendo franchises in the vanilla classic route, but it's a little boring. Plus, I want to go ahead and throw the Super Mario RPG fans a bone. So Mario's new route is titled The 7 Legendary Stars, and it's filled with references to party members and enemies in Mario RPG. It starts off with a fight against a white Kirby on Magican, referencing the first party member of Mario RPG, Mallow. The stage being cloudy in the background references Nimbus Land, a kingdom that's up in the clouds where Mallow comes from. The next fight has Mario fight a Mii Gunner wearing the Geno skin. Now this is pretty self-explanatory. Geno is the second party member, so he's the second fight. As a being from the Star Road, I felt it made sense for him to fight on a space-themed stage as well. This fight is also made just that much better by using the Deluxe Geno mod, which turns it into a full Geno costume rather than using an actual Mii's head. After this, Mario fights Peach, who is the final party member of the game, and it's pretty straightforward. Now we're gonna have some fun by referencing some enemies in the game. The next fight has Mario take on 3 Mii Gunners wearing Shy Guy masks. While a fairly loose reference, this is meant to reference the Sniffets that fight in Booster's place during the beginning of the fight against Booster. After defeating the Sniffets, you actually take on Booster, so this gets referenced in the classic mode by having Mario take on a fight against a Red Wario, who bears a kind of resemblance to Booster. The penultimate fight features a giant metal King Dedede. Along with his giant hammer, this is a reference to the final boss of Super Mario RPG, Smithy. The actual boss of the run is of course Bowser, who on defeat turns into Giga Bowser. While it is a bit out of order for the theme of the route, it's just a crime to have Mario take on anything that isn't Bowser and Giga Bowser. A more straightforward route that I wanted to change was Falco's. For some reason, he fights against dark characters in the vanilla route, and I don't know, that just doesn't really feel like a Falco theme. It's like they couldn't come up with anything better. So by plagiarizing from Twitter, I borrowed someone's idea for a cool Falco route. This new route is called I Prefer the Air. As the character with the highest jump in the game, it felt appropriate to have Falco fight characters with multiple jumps. These fights are against Kirby and Jigglypuff, Meta Knight and Dedede, Pit and Dark Pit, Charizard and Ridley, and Banjo-Kazooie and Grunty Banjo-Kazooie. The penultimate fight is against both appearances of Bayonetta from her 2 games, and while she doesn't strictly have multiple jumps, she can spend a lot of time in the air with her moveset, so I felt like this was a kind of cheeky end to the route. And then of course the boss is Rathalos, who flies around during the fight. Some more plagiarism gave me a fun idea for Banjo and Kazooie's route, because I think the duo theme is a little dull. So this new route is called Class of 64, and has Banjo and Kazooie fight teams of characters who had a solid presence on the Nintendo 64. With the exception of one battle, every fight has the duo fight the protagonists and villains of their respective series. The first fight is against Mario and Bowser, representing Super Mario 64. The next fight is against Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, and King K. Rool, for Donkey Kong 64. Following that is a fight against Fox, Falco, and Wolf, coming from Star Fox 64. Then we take a brief break to fight 2 Mii fighters wearing the Bomberman and Goemon outfits, representing Bomberman 64 and the Mystical Ninja starring Goemon series. This fight also uses the Deluxe Goemon mod, just for that little extra flair. Finally, we're gonna end on some Zelda-themed fights. First up is a fight against Link in his green tunic and Ganondorf, representing Ocarina of Time, the first Zelda game on the N64. Then we have a fight against young Link and a Mii brawler dressed up as Skull Kid, referencing Majora's Mask, the sequel to Ocarina of Time. And finally, we make a return to Hyrule by fighting against Ganon. It is a little odd to have Ganondorf and Ganon be separated by a fight, but I really liked the idea of following the chronological order of release for the Zelda games. And finally, I wanted to take a look at some fighting game routes. We have a ton of fighting game representation in Smash now that I thought it was kind of a shame we didn't have a classic mode route that brought all of that together. And of all the fighting game characters' routes, I thought that Ken's was the weakest theme, so I decided to put this new fighting game theme on his route, now called the World Warrior Tournament. First, Ken takes on Mii fighters representing Akira Yuki and Jackie Bryan, who represent the Virtua Fighter series, a fighting game series by Sega which debuted in 1993. After that, we have a fight against a pair of Mii fighters representing Ryo Sakazaki and Nakaruru. Ryo is originally from the Art of Fighting series, and Nakaruru hails from Samurai Showdown. Both are SNK characters and have also both been in the King of Fighters series. And then we have Mr. Fatal Fury himself fight against Terry Bogard. Now it's time to throw Nintendo a bone. While certainly not a traditional fighting game, I'll give them props for attempting to make a fighting game in ARMS. So I've made the next fight a 3-man fight. First against a Mii dressed as Spring Man, then a Mii dressed as Ribbon Girl, and then finally the full character Min Min. And with the addition of Kazuya, we can also have a 2-character Tekken-themed fight, against Kazuya himself, and then a Mii dressed up in the Heihachi outfit. The penultimate fight calls back to Ken's reveal trailer where he initially fights Little Mac before Incineroar bolts into the ring and wants his turn. While neither character is strictly from a fighting game, they are certainly based on martial arts and wrestling, and with the Smash trailer being a further reference, it just felt like a perfect fight. And then the final boss fight is against Ryu. Nothing really too fancy here, it's just Ken taking on his rival. And those are all of the routes that I changed for Smash Ultimate's Classic Mode. But there are 80 characters in this game, and I'm only one dude. So if you'd love to see a part 2, don't hesitate to leave a comment down below letting me know what kind of changes to Classic Mode you'd love to see. You can write out a full route or just give me a brief theme, anything goes. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.